Facts About Venus of Venus Boy. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Shasta, Oakland, California. Venus Boy by Lee Sutton. Facts About Venus. An afterword for curious boys and girls, as well as parents, teachers, and librarians. "Daddy, is this what Venus is really like?" demanded Blake, my 11-year-old son. He had just finished reading my manuscript. I have an idea that among my readers there may be other curious boys and girls who might ask the same question my son did. This was my answer. The job of a science fiction writer, I think, is to spin out tales about other times and strange planets, using known facts as beginning points and without violating any known facts. In Venus Boy, I have tried to do this. I think I have created a picture of life on the surface of Venus that is possible, if just barely possible. In addition to being a storyteller, I am a librarian, and librarians love to keep their facts straight. The fact about Venus is that nobody knows just what it is like on the surface of the planet. Since nobody knows, I could make it all up. Many facts are known about Venus, however. Venus is the sun's second planet. It is about 25 million miles closer to the sun than our Earth. Astronomers have measured and weighed it. It is almost exactly the same size as Earth, but its weight, mass, is 20% less. It turns very slowly on its axis so that its day is much longer than an Earth day. Because of a layer of clouds that surrounds it, the surface cannot be seen even with the most powerful of telescopes. Thus, astronomers cannot tell just how fast or slow it turns. A Venus day may be as short as 14 Earth days, or as long as 225 Earth days. If you noticed, you can see I have kept my picture of life on Venus true to these facts. I had the Venus day be 14 Earth days long. Some of the animals and plants were a great deal larger than Earth animals and plants, a fact that would be expected on a planet with less gravity than that of Earth. Of course, you might think that because of the clouds that surround Venus, the planet would be a terribly rainy place. That is not very probable. By using an instrument called a spectrograph, astronomers have learned that those heavy clouds are not of water vapor. Indeed, they can find evidence for little or no water vapor on Venus. They can detect a great deal of carbon dioxide, but no oxygen. But without oxygen, animals couldn't breathe. I can hear a child who knows some science say, life would be impossible. That could be true. Some scientists, in fact, most of them, believe that life is impossible on the surface of Venus. But remember, nobody knows what is under that heavy layer of clouds, and nobody knows just what those clouds are. One astronomer, Rupert Wilt, has advanced a theory about Venusian clouds that I think would allow for the possibility of life on Venus. He theorized on the evidence available to him that when Venus was young, carbon dioxide and water in the presence of ultraviolet light may have combined to make clouds of one form of plastic. I think it possible that such clouds would be thick, spongy, and permanent, and that they would join together so that the inner atmosphere of Venus could not escape through them. According to his theory, Venus could be like a Christmas present, all wrapped in shining plastic. This could account for the fact, too, that more than half the light falling on it from the sun is reflected, making it the brightest of all the planets or stars, a jewel of a planet. Under a loose layer of plastic, life could be possible on Venus. If plant life began under those clouds, then an oxygen atmosphere could develop. Plants take in carbon dioxide through their leaves and give out oxygen. Many scientists believe the Earth's atmosphere became rich with oxygen in this manner. Of course, none of that oxygen in Venus' atmosphere could get through the thick layer of spongy plastic clouds. The carbon dioxide that was trapped on the outside would not get through either. Scientists believe, too, that Venus may be too hot for life or too cold. I think that the clouds and the carbon dioxide trapped outside of them would serve, on the one hand, to insulate Venus from the hot light of the nearby sun, and, on the other hand, to hold in its warmth during the long nights. As you can see, I have spun my story out of Mr. Wilt's idea of the plastic clouds of Venus, the rhinosaur's heavy armor, the arrowbird's bills, the marva's plastic strengthening jewel claws, all had their beginnings in the idea of a plastic planet. It allowed for the creation of some fairly interesting animals, I think. While I am on the subject of my animals, I should say a word about the possibility of animals cooperating the way I have had my Venus animals cooperate. That, I think, is perfectly possible. On Earth, one can find examples of several creatures living so closely together that if one kind is killed off, the others would all die. In many articles and books, Mr. Ashley Montague has amassed much evidence that shows an instinct for cooperation is as primary as the instinct of self-preservation. If we grant the idea of a creature whose intelligence is directed entirely towards surviving by cooperation, then I think my cooperative animals are, at the very least, possible. Possible. That is what I hope my picture of life on Venus is. However, it must be remembered that it is only just possible. Astronomers have envisioned Venus as a planet of terrible dust storms, with a temperature hot enough to boil water. They have spoken of it as a place of seas of formaldehyde, hot and terrible by day and freezing cold at night. Their guesses are probably better than mine, but I must admit I like my guess a little better. I hope you have enjoyed it. End of Facts About Venus. End of Venus Boy by Lee Sutton.